Maverick News presents The Rick Walker Show. Defrag your mind.
Good evening, Maverick family. Good evening, new viewers from all over the world. Thank you, everyone, for joining me live here again tonight on the Maverick News channel. I really am truly grateful. And, I was having a conversation with someone today, just actually a couple of people talking about what we do here every night on this live stream. And I again was telling these folks how in my blood, the old school journalism still pulses through my veins. Uh, it's just in my DNA because that's the way I was trained. I've been involved in some form of media since I was a kid, even with school newspapers and so on. And in the course of the conversations today, I was saying that really journalism, as I was taught, is pretty much dead. We've seen the resulting layoffs again this week through some mainstream media in Canada. We've seen ongoing pressure through mainstream media in both Canada and the United States. And what I'm getting at here is that now today, what we have is a new form of journalism. It is polarized. It is highly political. It is partisan. It is ideological. It is no longer, it's very hard to find any kind of neutrality. And therefore it's hard to find balance, and it's even hard to find truth, because regardless of which side you're on or what kind of media you're watching, chances are there's a real slant there. Now, I admit that I have my own political ideology and my own political biases, and I certainly sit here and editorialize quite often because that's sort of new form journalism as well. But I'm always careful, try to be anyway, to let people know when I'm opining and when I'm just trying to lay out facts and provide balance. And in the course of doing all of this, we have a variety of guests and co-hosts on this program. Many of them have different points of view. We've had communists on here. We've had conservatives on here. We've had Democrats. We've had Republicans. We've had MAGA people, freedom people. We've had people from the transgender community, the pride community on here. We've had people from all walks of life, poor people, rich people, highly political people, people who aren't interested in politics at all. We've had people on here agreeing on things, and we've had people on here telling each other to F off. I have to say, though, that this approach at times has not been good for the health of the channel, because social media, and especially news-based or politics-based live streams, podcasts, social media channels, platforms, pages, whatever, they function best. They generate the largest audiences when you're catering to a particular demographic, a particular group of people, and you continue to feed that group with the narratives that they want to hear, with the information just that they want to hear. I think it's a little bit dangerous. Certainly, to some degree, I suppose we're guilty of it here as well, because my worldview, my political ideology, it feeds into that. Of course, I select stories based on my own personal perspective. Anyway, the point that I'm making here is, in spite of all of that, and even though we've had people from across the political spectrum attack the channel, attack me, these attacks continue even today, because, oh, you had a guest on and they, that, and I don't like that person. Or now you're woke, Rick, because you said this, or you allowed this person to come on your channel. So now you're woke. You must be compromised. You're You're working for the government, you're a secret agent, or whatever crazy stuff people come up with in their minds. And when in reality, what I'm doing is just providing a platform where a lot of people with a lot of different points of view can come in and share their perspective, their opinions. And that way you become better informed, you get a fuller perspective, and you can make a better assessment of things for yourself and think for yourselves. So I'm grateful. That's the bottom line here. I'm very grateful to you guys, the Maverick family, for sticking with the program here, sticking with the show, sticking with me, standing by me, having confidence and faith in what we're doing here. No question, I'm pretty conservative in my points of view. I'm definitely a fiscal conservative. I'm a free market guy. You all know that. But that doesn't mean I'm not willing to listen to people with really different points of view on the economy. And quite often we find real common ground. But I just wanted to say thank you to everybody here for sticking with me and the channel and what we're doing. It's I'm so fortunate to have you guys here every night. And I will continue to try to live up to your expectations and meet the standard that I know you guys demand, that you've come to demand because of the standard and where I've set the bar when it comes to truth and accuracy and even balance, you know. But when I see politicians blatantly lying about things, well, yeah, I'm gonna call that out too. And I will opine. And you guys get to offer your opinions on things as well. And people, some of the critics who have called in during the call-in portions of the show, a lot of them have said, well, he doesn't believe in free speech, or that's his opinion. You don't agree with that. And just because, if you have an opinion, I get to have an opinion. That's sort of the difference in this new social media environment. When I was old school journalism, strictly, when I was working in television back in the day, when journalism still had some legs and a little bit of a heartbeat, I had to go out every day and present stories with as much impartiality as I possibly could and as much objectivity. I wasn't really supposed to have an opinion, even if and of course I always did have an opinion, but I had to keep that to myself. And I always had to go and get all the different players, all the different stakeholders in a story, whatever their point of view might be, and bring them forward, give them a chance to stand on their soapbox, even if it was only for a 10-second sound bite in the middle of a minute 30 or 2-minute long story, or a 5-part series, a 3-part series, mini documentary, whatever it was that we were doing. But everybody got the chance to speak if they had a particular legitimate perspective on an issue or a story. And you always tried to provide balance so that the public could decide. Again, just thank you. Thank you, everybody, for sticking with what we're doing here. Tonight, we have so much to talk about. Transhumanism. We'll talk about a story that has broken this week, where scientists now claim they can create, get this, synthetic human embryos. Yeah, that means that all this talk about men being able to have babies, scientists are saying that, yeah, they think they can make that happen in the very near future. We'll explore some of the ethics and the already seen possible problems that might create heading into the future. Paul McCartney, artificial intelligence, he says that AI has been used to extract John Lennon's voice from an old cassette so they can make or finish, really, an unfinished song that Lennon had been working on. And that song is supposed to be released sometime later this year. So we're going to talk a little bit about artificial intelligence and how it's being used also in commercials to trick people, fake people. The Times of London reporting this week as well that they now think that the COVID virus may have come from a lab. That seems to be the theory that is most favored now. So what is it here? It's now, oh yeah, June 15th, 2023. And they're just coming around to this now. I think I might have heard that someplace before. I think it was quite a while ago, but I don't know. They're breaking the story. Great journalism. What else do we have for you tonight? Pierre Poilievre, leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, going after now the Prime Minister directly on that issue of Paul Bernardo, the serial killer, being released from maximum security and transferred to a medium security facility. Poilievre says it's the Prime Minister's fault directly. That's his claim. We'll show you what he had to say about that today. Bill Cosby sued in Nevada by 9 more women on sex related matters. So we'll definitely talk about that. The LGBTQ pride conflicts continue to escalate. We'll talk about that tonight too. In fact, right now tonight in Washington D.C., there's a fairly significant pride event taking place at a Catholic church, and Archbishop Vigano has issued a letter talking about exactly that and expressing his concerns about church leaders partaking in these pride events. We'll definitely dig into it. We'll take you to Hamtramck, which is a suburb of Detroit, where they have decided to ban the flying. Well, not really ban the pride flag, but no pride flags will be flown outside municipal buildings there. We've seen this very issue come up multiple times, many times now, in various communities across Canada and the United States. And right here in my hometown, I think my hometown, because of one of the local councilors here who has been fighting for freedom for the past 3 years, and she introduced the exact same kind of motion. And that kind of got the ball rolling here on the Canadian side of the border. Well, same controversy going on the U.S. side, and we'll show you what happened over there in Hamtramck. It's something that I want to get caught up on with you tonight. Also, like a pride protester, like on the pro-pride, pro-trans side, there are claims being made that this person, and person's in the thumbnail tonight, admitting that they're getting government funding. I'll show you that too. What else do we have? I think that's probably the main stuff that we have to share with you tonight. If we have time, I'm also going to show you a super ultra cool Buick. Yeah, I know I'm a car guy, so this comes from the automotive files, but I just came across this thing yesterday, and this is going viral, and it's a concept, and it is so cool looking. We're going to probably take, a minute, maybe 2 minutes, and we'll show you that, because at some point we have to at least stop and appreciate something of beauty and find a little joy in life, right? Well, I love automotive sculpture. I love the culture behind cars. And what I'll show you tonight is exactly that. So do not go away. I will be right back, and we'll get things rolling right here on the Maverick News Channel.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching. Fighting the Great Reset by leading the Great Resistance. Maverick News. The antivirus programs for your mind.
Okay, also just on the Canadian side, 15 people have been killed and 10 have been hospitalized in a horrific crash on the Trans-Canada Highway out in Manitoba. This after a bus collided with a semi-truck on the highway near Carberry, Manitoba. RCMP saying that the bus was carrying about 25 police people. It collided with the truck on Highway 1 at the corner of Highway 1 and Highway 5 near the town of Carberry. This is a location about 2 hours west of Winnipeg. So tonight, police confirming that 15 people have been killed in that crash, 10 other people taken to hospital with injuries that we do not really have full details on at this time. So we know that the bus was on its way to a casino. And we do have some images from social media tonight to share with you. Right here. So this is footage from passersby. And as you can see, they brought in a helicopter. I think the first responders were throwing all the resources they have at this. And the information is still just beginning to flow tonight. So they apparently sent at least 2 air ambulances to the scene of the crash, one from Winnipeg, one from Regina. And we also know that emergency responders are being flown out to the area. As many as 14 medical personnel responded. And they did declare a code orange for a mass casualty incident at the Health Sciences Center in Winnipeg. So witnesses describing the scene as horrific. Some people saying that as soon as they saw what had happened, they became sick to their stomachs just because of the emotional impact from seeing it. Not all families have been notified of this yet, so we really do not have names of victims at this point. Those names, as is customary and appropriate, are generally released overtime after next of kin have been notified. So efforts are being made to reopen the highway, but the investigation is continuing tonight. Let me just see if I can get you any other footage from the scene. Here's a still image. Actually, I can't show you. I think that is actually from the scene for you. Yeah. So our thoughts, of course, are with the families and the people of those communities near Winnipeg tonight. 15 people dead near Winnipeg tonight. Also this evening, Bill Cosby has been sued in Nevada by 9 more women who claim they were drugged and sexually assaulted by him back when he was still a major celebrity and at the top of his career between 1979 and 1992. So this lawsuit was filed in the Southern Division of the U.S. District Court for the District of Nevada. And it is the result of a 2023 law that eliminates the statute of limitations for sexual assault victims, allowing them to sue an alleged perpetrator for damages that arise from sexual abuse. Cosby is accused of sexual assault, battery, assault, intentional infliction of emotional distress, negligent infliction of emotional distress, and false imprisonment. These 9 women who filed the lawsuit are Lise Lott Lublin, Lily Bernard, Janice Baker Kinney, Rebecca Cooper, Linda Kirkpatrick, Janice Dickinson, Angela Leslie, Pam Joy Abete, and Heidi Thomas. So Cosby was sentenced to 3 to 10 years back in another case in Pennsylvania. He was supposed to go to jail for 3 to 10 years in state prison there in 2018 for allegedly drugging and sexually assaulting a former Temple University employee, Andrea Constand, in 2004. That conviction was overturned in 2021, and then he was released. So he has never been convicted criminally, is my understanding, as a result. And the Pennsylvania Supreme Court concluded Cosby's prosecution should never have occurred due to the deal he cut with the Montgomery County prosecutor back before the trial, who agreed not to criminally prosecute him if he gave a deposition in a civil case brought against him by Constant. So Cosby's always said that he was innocent and said that any sexual relationships that he ever had were consensual. But a lot of women disagree with him. And I think the total number now of women who have brought accusations against Cosby in one form or another is, I think it's approaching something like 60. And of course, he's in his 80s now. So we'll see where all this goes. Of course, Cosby's lawyer is alleging that the women, of course, are not really being truthful. And his Cosby's defense attorney is saying, of course, that the women are really just after fame and money. Take it for what it's worth. Make your own assessment. Wait for the evidence, I guess, to come out and the testimony, and we will see. We will see. Let's move on, shall we? Let's get into this story now about synthetic embryos, because I think this is, how shall I put this? It's quite possibly the most important story that we have here tonight. The Guardian breaking this story, if you really want to call it breaking. This information is sort of being out there, but now through a conference, information has come to light that the Guardian is reporting, where they say in this exclusive report that synthetic human embryos have been created in a groundbreaking advance. And here it is. Says here, and get the wording in this, okay? Scientists have created synthetic human embryos using stem cells in a groundbreaking advance that sidesteps the need, wait for it, without the need for eggs or sperm. Scientists say these model embryos, which resemble those in the earliest stages of human development, could provide a crucial window on the impact of genetic disorders and the biological causes of recurrent miscarriage. However, the work also raises serious ethical and legal issues as the lab-grown entities, they call them entities, fall outside the current legislation in the United Kingdom and most other countries. The structures do not have a beating heart or the beginnings of a brain, but include cells that would typically go on to form the placenta, yolk sac, and the embryo itself. Well, man, we are starting to get into some pretty dark areas here and some very complex ethical issues. This is all within the realm of transhumanism. And there are a lot of, oh my goodness, unanswered questions, issues that have not been addressed. There is so much that we have not thought through on this. And yet here we are. And here's a video kind of outlining what a company called, there's a company called Conception that is really behind a lot of this work. And this video from a channel called Freethink outlines how all this is working and what this is all about. Let's take a quick look and we'll comment after.
If this becomes a reality, it could mean that same-sex couples could be able to one day have biological children of their own. We could basically just take a blood sample and turn those blood cells first into stem cells and then ultimately into viable human eggs.
That might sound like science fiction, but it's a very real process called IVG, a breakthrough that has the potential to allow anyone unable to get pregnant for any reason to have biological children. So far, IVG has only been successfully performed in mice. However, a fast-growing and well-funded startup in Berkeley, California, is looking to make it a reality for a current generation of would-be parents.
If this works, it could be one of the most significant technologies that are ever created.
This is Just Might Work, a show about surprising solutions to our biggest problems. What is IVG?
It's an acronym. You're not going to use that, are you? So IVG stands for in vitro gametogenesis. In vitro means in glass. Gametes are eggs and sperm. Genesis means creation of or birth of. So in vitro gametogenesis is making eggs and sperm outside of the body, inside a laboratory.
This is Hank Greeley, a Stanford law professor who specializes in thinking about the consequences of exactly this kind of technology.
What's so interesting about the potential for IVG is to be able to take skin cells, turn them into these induced pluripotent stem cells, which can become any cell type, and then build things from them. Build organs, build embryos, build eggs and sperm.
So anyone who's not able to have biological children now could have their own kids with the arrival of IVG. People like same-sex couples, older people, and those experiencing infertility, which affects over 45 million couples worldwide.
Some people say they can always adopt, they could use donor egg, donor sperm. People don't need to have genetic babies. And that's true. But many people really want to, and they suffer.
Since all IVG would require is a simple blood sample, it could essentially end infertility. Or at least it would end infertility if someone figures out how to make it work in humans. Enter Matt Krisiloff, a tech investor and the CEO of Conception, a startup determined to make IVG a reality. And soon.
I became super interested really from a personal standpoint. I think it's a really great thing just to give more choice rather than there being hard biological restrictions in terms of how people are able to have children.
Before Conception, Krisiloff led the research nonprofit at Y Combinator, one of the most successful startup accelerators in history.
I was funding all sorts of interesting policy and scientific research, and there was a paper that came out of the lab in Japan where they had actually managed to do in vitro gametogenesis successfully in mice all the way to live, healthy birth.
Krisiloff visited IVG labs around the world, and while the research astounded him, he was disappointed in its slow pace and how under-resourced these projects seemed to be.
I was getting answers from the academics that it would be 20, 30-year type of time frame. I just really believed that people were not approaching this the exactly correct way.
Krisiloff decided to utilize his access to high-profile tech investors and found two co-founders who were equally as dedicated to his vision, bioscientists Pablo Hurtado and Bianca Ceres.
I think personally, and being honest, I'm gay. The fact that I cannot have biological children, it's always been a struggle for me. So this field gave me that hope.
All three shared the same sentiment. To realize the dream of conception, it had to be taken out of academia and into the world of startups.
I really feel like we've taken the approach of an engineering problem. If you just break it down into small enough buckets, then you can assemble a team where you can work on and isolate the key problems at each of those stages at the same time.
3 years into their work, Conception staff has grown to 28 scientists, and their new estimate for when IVG will be ready is far more ambitious than when they started.
Everything in our work is really oriented at this point around creating a proof of concept human egg.
You can only take what the ovaries can produce. And so one of the huge challenges were like, how do you hijack the human body and get more cells, more eggs, more embryos?
So these here are human-induced pluripotent stem cells. So you can take blood or skin cells and generate these beauties here. What's really exciting about these cells is that they can become almost any cell in the human body if you put them in the right conditions.
These days, I'm confident that within a couple of years, at least in a proof of concept way, we should actually be able to have this in humans.
Ethical and legal questions have always dogged fertility science. Who will have access to the technology? Will it bring on a generation of designer babies?
The idea is we can edit the embryo's DNA in a way to give babies basically superpowers. Give them the intelligence and the sports ability and the personality and so on.
But that's not really even possible with IVG. At least, not yet.
With IVG, you could make 100 embryos for a couple and tell the parents, okay, here's everything genetics can tell us about these 100 embryos. Now, that's still not designer babies because you're still only working with what the parents have to give you.
The choices IVG could offer to parents is one of the things Krisiloff is most excited about.
If we can generate unlimited egg cells and create a wide quantity of embryos, that would really open the door for genetic selection and even genetic editing for disease purposes one day.
I think the timeline could be accelerated, but I don't think it should be. We really need to be confident that these artificially produced eggs and sperm don't lead to a vast increase in miscarriages and stillbirths. And that, I think, realistically should take at least 10 years.
Oh, 10 years. What could go wrong? Well, probably a lot. Probably a lot. Is anyone seeing where this potentially could go and how this could lead to really bad things? What if we already did a show where we talked about pod babies? Now they have the technology to create synthetic embryos. They can basically take a drop of blood, a skin cell, and then grow that or turn that into a stem cell and then grow that into a synthetic embryo. So they're saying that they could make anyone pregnant or create a human being from just a skin cell. You don't need the sperm, you don't need the egg. They're using the DNA from that. You know what this makes me think of? Jurassic Park. How long will it be before they can take, the bone of a dinosaur and clone a dinosaur? This is Jurassic Park for real, but with humans. They dangle this concept too all the time of curing diseases like the cancer moonshot. They're using this genetic research, which ties right into this stuff, to say that they want to cure cancer or cure blindness or cure Parkinson's disease. And these are all things that seem very desirable and are very attractive to us as a society. And especially if you have a disease or a loved one has a disease that could potentially be cured using this kind of technology, it's very enticing. But what happens when what ultimately they end up doing here is growing embryos and cloning humans for organ harvesting, which seems to be what the end game is, at least for some countries engaging in this kind of research. And while that might in itself seem to some very desirable, to others it seems horrific. At what point does life, a human life, become a human life? At what point does a human life or a human being created, even if it's a synthetic human, does that synthetic human have the same rights as someone like yourself, created just naturally, organically, the old-fashioned way? What happens if you have some dictator who wants to rule forever and never wants to die, who wants to be immortal, and they start cloning the leader so that there's succession in leadership by the same person for eternity? I was making some notes just prior to this. I'm just kind of referring back to it. This ties into this whole idea that human beings are hackable, that your genetic code is like digital DNA, like biodigital coding that they can hack into or hack out, essentially. They take a little piece of your DNA, they make another you. And this is all coming at us right now during this Pride Month, Pride season. And you saw the Pride flag hanging in front of that office building in that documentary. That sent up warning flags for me. I've noticed, and I hate to make this political in this way, but this has become entirely political, this Pride season. And what have we been seeing across Western countries, especially in the U.S. and Canada? Pride flags being flown outside government buildings, not just being flown under, the flags of the United States or Canada, but in some cases actually replacing the Canadian and U.S. flags. Outside the Prime Minister's office, the Canadian flags were removed from their places on the wall on each side of the entrance to the Prime Minister's office, and pride flags within the past week were placed there instead. Do you understand why that enrages some people? Why it concerns some people? It's gone beyond flying a symbol for the gay community, the LGBTQ S+1A community. It's sort of gone beyond that to become so political that now the pride flag is displacing the flag of the country. I hope I'm not losing my train of thought here or losing you guys in the course of trying to explain my point. If they create that, they're on the verge of creating, and you heard him say this in that documentary, they're on the verge of creating a whole race of synthetic superhumans with superpowers. Well, they're not quite there yet, but they're on the verge of doing it. You know they can do it. That's why China, the United States, all the major powers are engaged in the development of this technology. They're worried that if they don't pursue this, and other countries do, they'll create a whole bunch of synthetic humans who are geniuses, super smart, super strong, armies of them. Do you see how dark this gets and how quickly? And if you think things are divided now, if you think that we're suffering because of identity politics, pitting one group against another, even though they're saying diversity is our strength. While they divide people into these various groups, you're black, you're Asian, you're gay, you're straight, you're a man, you're a woman. And then you have this hierarchy of victimhood and so on. Now, what happens when you get this whole additional race of people who are synthetic, and then they become subgroups of other identity groups? Now you have Asian synthetic people, and you have genetically engineered superhumans with all different genetic traits, and things start to blur, but you have a whole now class of people who really are the most privileged potentially because they won't get sick. They'll have the highest IQs. They'll be the strongest and the fastest. You're worried now about transgender men competing in women's sports. What happens when you have synthetic humans who are physically stronger, faster, more resilient, have greater endurance, a higher mental capacity because they've been genetically engineered to do those, to achieve those levels? What are you going to do when they're competing in sports against people who are just created organically, naturally? Is that fair? What do you do when you want to have kids and you want to make sure that your kids have a bright future? Do you just have kids the natural way and hope for the best? Or do you go and make sure that you purchase the latest, greatest biotechnology, genetic technology, and put that to work for you in the creation of your designer baby? And is that ethical? We need to put the brakes on this, I think. Because in 10 years, it looks like they might be ready to actually start offering this service to people. And I don't think that we have thought through the ethics on all of this stuff. And here it is. They've actually been able to create a synthetic embryo for humans. They're already doing it in mice, and in China, as I understand it, they're doing this with monkeys already. So they're very, very close to doing it with humans, and who knows? I would not be at all surprised if they are already doing it with humans and just not telling us about it because they don't have proper government approvals in place, or maybe they do, but it's all top secret. You know how these things go. And if you have an entire race of synthetic humans and they're all marching, carrying pride flags, it seems like you have a very strong political movement then, don't you? You know, and then I think about what's going on right now, and there's this phrase that's used on the freedom side, which it's always made me squirm a little bit, this whole pure blood thing. Not just squirm because it seems to have ties to a dark past, but because it seems connected to what's coming in the future on a bigger scale, in a more serious way. I don't like the phrase just because because it divides us again. Those who are purebloods, those who are not purebloods. And now you add into all of that people who are synthetically created. And that's also, again, I mean, I keep mentioning from time to time the eighth fire prophecy from First Nations, where we are being asked or charged with the task of choosing one path or the other through the eighth prophecy, the path of technology or the natural path away from technology. And this is all happening right now. Do we pursue this technology and embrace it? We know not where it will take us. And we are already heading down that road, aren't we? Or do we pull back, shift our path, and walk the line of nature and faith and God? Or do we pursue this path, which is a path of synthesis, a secular society, potentially godless, where we're ruled by other humans who make up the rules, give us our rights instead of rights that come from above. These all tie together. They are all part of a singularity that we're heading toward because of all these new technologies, not just genetic engineering, which really got its kickstart with creation of things like glyphosate, Roundup ready corn, agriculture, but also artificial intelligence. And we're seeing the results of artificial intelligence already have impact on our daily lives now through ChatGPT. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but scam artists are already using artificial intelligence and deep fakes and the newest digital technologies to create ads to trick us and steal from us and dupe us and get us to change our behavior. In fact, the Federal Trade Commission in the U.S. has issued this warning saying ads for fake AI and other software spread malicious software. Here, I'll show you. The criminals run bogus ads, it says here, for AI tools and other software and social media sites and on search engines. These savvy cyber criminals can evade detection by systems designed to ferret out malicious advertising. They can also evade antivirus software. If you click on a malicious ad, you end up on a cloned site that downloads malware onto your device. But some ads take you to the real software and download the malware through a back door, which makes it hard to know you got hacked. Then the criminals could steal your information and sell it to other hackers on the dark web or get access to your online accounts and scam others. So how do you avoid clicking on malicious ads that installs malware? Don't click on ads to download software. If you see an ad for software that piques your interest, don't click on it. Instead, go to the website by typing in the address. If you don't know the website address, search for it, but remember that scammers also place ads on search engines. They'll appear at the top of your search results page and might have a label that says ad or sponsored. Scroll past those to get to your search results. Malicious ads might evade antivirus software, but it's still a good idea to make sure your computer's security software, operating system, and internet browser and your phone are up to date, and to turn on automatic updates to keep up with the latest protections. If you run into problems, follow these steps to remove malware or other hacked account. So there is a link there on this page from the Federal Trade Commission providing consumer advice. I will put this link now in the chat for you guys. If you want to get more information, you can follow this link and it will take you to the Federal Trade Commission website and right to that article, so you can find out how to protect yourself. And I'm going to show you an example now of an ad that does a deep fake with Elon Musk. And I've seen several of these just today alone. That's why I'm showing you this. I've been seeing these actually for the last few weeks. They're popping up only on my mobile feed on my phone, not on my desktop for some reason, but I keep getting them, a lot of them. And it's because I've stopped to look at some of them that they send me more, because of course they are tracking everything that we do online. So here's this fake ad with Elon Musk. This is not real. It's a deep fake with Elon Musk. Watch this, and then I'll point out some of the things that you should be aware of that will help you detect a fake ad like this. We'll look at what they've done here and how you can tell the difference between something that's authentic and something that's been created using artificial intelligence or deep fake digital technology.
Hello, everyone. I'm here to tell you about the Neuralink crypto token, the new cryptocurrency that will change the world forever. With this token, you have a unique opportunity to invest in the future of brain-machine interfaces. We're developing cutting-edge technology that will allow humans to communicate directly with computers using their minds. And that's not all. We're also exploring the possibility of connecting human brains to the internet. Imagine the possibilities from remote learning to telepathy to curing diseases. By investing in the Neuralink crypto token, you'll be a part of this revolution. And the earlier you invest.
So first off, are you seeing that? Can you hear his voice? It doesn't really quite sound like him. And the different ads that I've seen, and there are a lot with Elon Musk, a lot of these fake ads that are being created by different scam artists. And if you watch them and really listen, you'll find that the voice isn't quite on. It's in some cases very, very good, but the inflection isn't quite right. If you listen carefully, you can tell that it's generated digitally. The other thing that is always off right now is the lips. Pay very close attention to the lips. They're out of sync. If you see the lips not quite moving in sync, at times out of sync, chances are you're looking at a fake video. It's a deep fake. Some of them are very, very good, though. And you can really, in some cases, it's very difficult to tell. But the sound of the voice, lip syncing, The other thing that happens is sometimes they'll make pronunciation errors because it is generated digitally. It is not the actual voice. And so the computer will sometimes make a mistake. And I think a lot of these are being created in other countries where English is not the main language. And so the people who do the production work using the artificial intelligence and the deep fake digital technology fail to pick up on some of the minor nuances of the English language. For instance, one of the ones that I saw faking Elon Musk today, he said that he's the creator, or that he's involved with the company OpenAI, but he doesn't say AI, he says OpenA. It's a very small thing. A lot of people might not pick up on it, but it's there. And if you listen, you'll catch it. It's a dead giveaway that this is fake. Fake, fake, fake. We'll go back and pick up a little more of this.
Revolution. And the earlier you invest, the greater your potential returns will be. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity, and it won't last long. So don't wait. Invest in the Neuralink crypto token today and join us on our mission to enhance the human experience.
And you see his eyes? They keep going up to the side like that. It's because they're kind of looping the video. They're only using a short clip and it's repeating. And so his eye movement repeats itself a number of times. There are things about it that just don't feel natural because it isn't natural. And I'm not sure why they kept looping that exact section, but it likely had something to do with them trying to sync the lips and make it look as natural as they possibly can. Those are some of the basic things to look out for there. I've also seen deepfakes with Tucker Carlson, even Canadian news anchors, a lot of different media celebrities sitting behind news desks where these are made to look like news stories so that they're trying to give their scam some air of legitimacy. Be very, very careful about these things, folks. And I did notice on the Facebook feeds today that most of the ones that were coming up in my feed were now being marked or flagged as being likely phishing sites. So phishing by phishing, phishing, where if you click on it, it will take you to a malicious site and you could end up potentially infecting your phone, your computer, or your other digital device with malware or some sort of virus that could allow hackers to gain access to your device and even your personal data. So be very, very careful, folks. Extremely careful. And I wasn't going to mention this, but I'm going to, because I think there's some irony here. And I don't mean this in a really critical way, but I think I have to mention it because there's some irony here coming from Chris Sky, the Toronto mayoral candidate, who has been warning everyone about central bank digital currencies. He's been warning everyone about 15-minute cities and digital tracking and how the government is going to be using digital technology to track everyone everywhere we go, digital IDs. He's all against all of these things. And then he came out with this video today.
Sakocha, aka Chris Sky here, and I am in the final debate on June 19th, the debate to the top set up by Sim Honey. Well, they also helped me out with something else. They set up what they call an app business card for my campaign, and they can do the same thing for your small business. Why am I telling you this? Because after I used it, I saw the productivity that it could generate, and it is an absolutely amazing tool, and they will give it to you for free. A custom-made app for your small business for free, and it will enable you to not only promote your business, but to promote your favorite mayoral candidate in this upcoming election.
So if they're giving you, like, I'm not saying there's necessarily anything wrong with the app or anything like that. But here's the irony. If a software company or an app developer is giving you their product for free, it isn't for free. It's never for free. They always get something for what they're doing. They always monetize it in some way. If it's free, you are generally the product that they end up selling. They're selling you. They're selling your data. If you download that app, and I can't say for sure how it operates, okay? Because I haven't downloaded that app onto my phone. And I didn't have time today, honestly, to phone the company or download it or find out exactly how it works or what it is. A digital business card? But I'd bet my bottom donut that that app is used to skim data. Of course it is. You're using it for a business application. They're using it to compile lists. In his case, lists of voters. And then they collect your data, your personal information. They're skimming that information. So they get the demographic information. I don't know what information exactly that particular app might be skimming, but that's what those apps are for. You download stuff from the Play Store or from the Apple Store, wherever you're getting your apps, or App Pure, or you name it, or APK Pure, or wherever you're going to get your downloads, you download that stuff. If it's free, there's stuff going on behind the scenes now on your device that you're not aware of. And when you agree to the terms of service, you're allowing them to gain access to your device and send data back that they then collect, and then they monetize that. They sell it in some way. Even the torch, like the light that you download and put onto your phone, they're skimming all kinds of data with that particular app. Tons of different information. And then they sell that stuff. That's how they track you. That's how they monitor you. And these political campaigns, the most sophisticated political campaigns, are highly digital and highly social media focused. Their campaigns are social media centric. They need that data in order to target you in the most efficient possible way. They know from the social media data that they skim off what kind of videos you watch, what your political views are based on your viewing history and your search history, what kind of products you like to look at. They know if you're male, female, what your age range is, where you live, what your socioeconomic demographic data is, how much money you likely make every year, and whether you're a conservative, a communist, a Democrat, a Republican, a liberal, a new Democrat, a libertarian, a Marxist. They know. More than that, they probably even know your sexual preferences. They know everything. More than you probably are comfortable having them know. And you probably don't want to know everything that they know. And to them, it's just data. They probably generally don't care, unless you're a person of prominence, but they're just collecting the information because they're trying to help a political candidate win. That's what downloading an app like that is all about. I found it ironic that the candidate who is campaigning on an anti-digital, anti-CBDC, anti-tracking, anti-15-minute city, anti-central bank digital currency platform, digital passport, anti-vaccine passport platform is now encouraging everybody to download a free business card app. Anyway, I thought, my goodness, isn't that laughable? But hey, maybe it's a great app. Not saying they're doing anything malicious, not saying they're going to download a virus onto your phone or anything, but maybe we'll have Chris Guy back on here and he can talk more about it. And what was his incentive to actually give them that endorsement? Is that what he had? And I don't have the answers to this, but because it's a debate being put on by Sim Honey, and I don't even know it. I tried to look up the company. I couldn't find them online. But they're apparently putting the debate on. Is that what it is? So in order to get into the debate, he gave them the plug, or they're giving him, like, I don't get it. So he's plugging this. What's his interest in the company? These are questions I'd like to ask him now. And I'm not criticizing. These are just questions that I have. And if he comes on, maybe we can discuss it. I'd love to find out more. I'd like to find out more about that app. Maybe I'll put it on my phone. Maybe it's good. Maybe, but I wouldn't recommend it right now until you thoroughly research it and find out exactly what it's going to do to your device. Don't download anything onto your device, and don't download anything unless you're absolutely confident that it's not going to harm your device or put any kind of malicious coding on there or going to conflict with anything else on your device. Be very, very, very careful, and be very careful about clicking on anything, like I say, that looks like it is some deep fake artificial intelligence, anything. If in doubt, don't click on it. If there's even a hint of doubt, don't click on it. As it said in that warning from the Federal Trade Commission, don't click on it. If you really want to check it out, type in the name of the company into the URL bar and try to go to their website directly. Do a Google search for the company name, see what pops up, and then click on one of the Google links to go to the site. Don't click on the ad. If you click on the ad, you can get into a lot of trouble really quickly. That's the path that they use to get you to download malicious code onto your device. And then you've got big problems. And as much as I hate Google, because they're such an evil, evil corporation, I do use Chromebooks because they are not as susceptible, so much less vulnerable to hacking and the downloading of malicious code onto the devices, and they are so much easier to clean up and to just clear off everything. I'm a big fan of the technology, the Chromebooks, but I don't like Google because of all their, because they're so censorship happy. Don't go away. I shall return.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
A lot of people, on the U.S. side say, it comes up here all, from time to time. What is Canada's population? And I always say it's around 30 million. Wow, am I off? Canadian population has been exploding over the last few years. And as of tomorrow, according to Statistics Canada, Canada will reach 40 million, a population of 40 million people. By U.S. comparison, that's not that large, really. But for a country to grow from 30 million to 40 million in such short period of time, just about 5-6 years or whatever it is, that's pretty explosive growth, and it's the fastest rate of growth since 1957 in Canada. To put it in perspective, 40 million people in the entire country of Canada, and in New York City, you have about 8.5 million in just one city. One city. That's why I always say, when you're comparing crime or poverty or other socioeconomic issues, and you start comparing Canada and the United States, it's quite often like comparing apples and oranges. Because when you have that much population density in big US cities like New York or Los Angeles or Chicago, or you name whatever other big city where you have, millions of people crammed into one place, it's pretty hard to compare the challenges that they have for policing and homelessness and drug abuse and unemployment, even sanitation, public health care, with, between, it's hard to compare what those big cities are facing and what we have going on in, a country like Canada, where cities are further apart. Quite often the cities are much smaller, surrounded by more rural farmland. It's much different. You get into Toronto and you can start to compare, some similarities. Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, Edmonton, maybe, but even there, you can't really compare like Edmonton to New York. But I hear people do things like that, say things like that all the time. But in New York, it's like, no, it's a totally different deal, man. Over 8 million people in one city. And in all of Canada, 40 million. In the U.S., well over 300 million. So generally speaking, the U.S. has been pretty consistent for quite some time as being about 10 times the size of Canada. But it's, of course, immigration that is fueling the massive population growth here in Canada. I say massive, it's massive by our standards. Personally, I think it's happening too quickly because our economy needs to grow at a consistent and equal pace in order to make sure that we don't have housing problems. And that's why we're seeing such a huge increase, why we have seen such a huge increase in the cost of housing in recent years. It's because of inflationary deficit spending, money printing by the federal government, and of course, immigration, which is creating more demand for the housing that we have and inadequate government policies to facilitate the production of new housing to meet the rising demand. So you have rising demand and diminishing supply, therefore housing prices go up. You combine that with inflationary pressures and you've seen housing prices more than double in many cities in Canada just over the past 3-4 years. And that isn't it's slowing down a little bit in some communities, but not everywhere. And as Polyev has been out and concerned about the economy, if we continue on this course, at some point we're going to see the housing bubble probably burst, because when interest rates start to increase, we're going to see that people won't be able to keep up with those payments because the prices have increased so much, and a lot of people are likely to end up losing their homes. Now, on that Toronto mayoral race, still Chris Sky not ranking there with the top contenders. Olivia Chow still way out in front, as I understand it, in the polling. She's very woke, left wing. And we have now more than 80 people running in that by-election to become the mayor of Canada's most populous city, Canada's largest city, Toronto. We talked about the challenges that different cities in both Canada and the United States have when it comes to socioeconomic issues like drug abuse. And out in California, let me find my notes on this, and there's an article that goes with it. They've seized a large amount of fentanyl. A large amount of fentanyl. Where did you go, notes? I have so many things open here tonight. Anyway, they found enough fentanyl. They confiscated enough in these raids. Here we go. They seized enough fentanyl in San Francisco to kill the city's entire population, according to what police are saying, nearly 3 times over. I'm not sure exactly how you come to that conclusion. I guess like if you just distributed that drug and gave it to people all at one time, or I don't know how you quantify that, but that's what they're claiming. And fentanyl is pretty lethal, pretty toxic, illicit drug. So Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, is saying that the state's highway patrol seized enough of that drug in the past 6 weeks to again kill the city's whole population 3 times over. So Newsom launched a public safety partnership between the city and the state back in May, the beginning of May, and the highway patrol has now seized more than 4.2 kilograms of fentanyl in the Tenderloin neighborhood and the immediate surrounding area of San Francisco. The U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration says that a lethal dose of fentanyl is 2 milligrams. 1 kilogram is enough to kill 500,000 people. The amount seized in San Francisco, therefore, is enough to kill over 2 million people. That in a news release coming from Newsom's office. In addition, over the first 6 weeks of this drug operation, the California Highway Patrol also seized over 957 grams of methamphetamine, 319 grams of cocaine, and 31 grams of heroin. They've made 92 felony and misdemeanor arrests, including on charges related to possession of fentanyl, illegal firearms possession, driving under the influence, and domestic violence. More to come on that front. So Gavin Newsom has his own little war on drugs happening out there. And then there was this from this week as well, talking about Ukraine and Biden. Ted Cruz taking on the deputy director of the FBI. I'll tell you what, I'm going to run a little transition here. When we come back, I'll show you the exchange. We didn't get to it earlier this week. It was only from a day or two ago, but this is pretty important, especially considering that we have the Trump indictment and all of this evidence that is now out about, the money that has allegedly been flowing from China into the hands of the Biden family. I'll be right back.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
And I apologize. I think I need to correct myself because as I was replaying what I just said in my head, I think I might have misspoken. I said that Cruz is hammering on the deputy director of the FBI over Chinese money coming to the Biden family. And I think that there is some evidence of maybe improper connections between the Bidens and certain powerful people in China, but that's a little bit different because what Cruz was really focused on is, I think, connections to Ukraine and money flowing from Ukraine. In any event, let's listen to the exchange. And And you'll see what I mean. If you haven't heard this already, this is not fresh, but it is something that is important, and I absolutely want to draw attention to it.
Texas. I hear from Texans who are deeply dismayed about the growing politicization and weaponization of the Department of Justice and the FBI. If you are not, every one of you should be deeply concerned about the damage being done to the integrity of the institutions in which you operate. My office hears regularly from FBI agents and from assistant U.S. attorneys who are likewise concerned about the politicization and weaponization of the Department of Justice and the FBI, and this is profoundly damaging to the rule of law in our nation. Last month, a whistleblower brought to light the existence in the FBI of a report, an FD 1023, in which the informant alleges that President Biden and his family members engaged in a $5 million bribery scheme during his time as vice president. Deputy Director Abate, is it true that the FBI has a report making those allegations?
I'm not going to comment on that, Senator.
And why is that?
I'm just not going to comment on information we received, investigations.
Do you owe an obligation to the American people to be candid about evidence of corruption by the President of the United States?
This is an area that I'm not going to get into with you, Senator.
Well, I understand you don't want to, and that's why people are mad at the FBI, because you're stonewalling and covering up serious allegations of evidence of corruption from the president. Yesterday, Senator Chuck Grassley stood on the Senate floor and alleged that there are 17 recordings of this informant from Burisma, Ukrainian natural gas company. 15 of them are recordings, voice recordings of him talking to Hunter Biden. 2 of them are voice recordings of him talking to Joe Biden. Deputy Director Abate, does the FBI have 17 voice recordings laying out evidence of a bribery scheme?
Senator, I would add also that we've worked with the House Oversight Committee.
Yeah, this is the Senate. We're the other side of the Capitol. This is the Senate. Do you have those 17 recordings?
I'm not going to comment on any investigative matters, Senator.
See, that's the problem. The FBI, and I've had this conversation with Chris Wray too, this is why you are damaging the institution. The American people have a right to know whether there is serious, credible evidence that the President of the United States took a $5 million bribe. And by the way, if it's false, Chairman Durbin just rolled his eyes. If Chairman Durbin were interested in the rule of law, we would have a hearing on these allegations. But of course, the Democrats don't want a hearing on these allegations. And to be clear, if the allegations are false, you know who could disprove them? Joe Biden. He could call for this to be released publicly. But the FBI is stonewalling. Would you agree?
Two things, Senator. No one's stonewalling. The 1023
you just said you refused to answer the question.
In response to a subpoena.
Okay, then why did you refuse to answer my question?
The pertinent information is there, and I reject your assertion that the FBI is politicized.
Why did you refuse to answer my question?
I just answered your question.
Okay, so yes, you have a 1023. Do you have the 17 recordings? Yes or no?
I'm not going to get further into that.
So you're stonewalling. You can't say I'm not refusing to answer your question, but I won't answer your question.
I'm going to answer within the parameters that we operate in.
That's the problem. The FBI has right now an unlimited hubris that you believe you are unaccountable. You don't believe you're accountable to the United States Congress, and you don't believe you're accountable to the American people. And you are doing damage. The FBI is a great institution. When I go home to Texas, people ask me, should we abolish the FBI? Now, I tell them no, because you have heroes and patriots working for you that are catching child predators, that are catching terrorists. But you're sitting there happily erecting a wall to protect Joe Biden. Will you provide to this committee, not the House, the Senate Judiciary Committee, will you provide the FD 1023 and will you provide the 17 recordings so we can assess what is the evidence, the specific credible evidence that Joe Biden personally took a $5 million bribe from a foreign national?
Senator, we will work with this committee, you and other members, to provide the information within the parameters of the process.
Will you provide the FD 1023, yes or no?
I will take that back and we will work with our
So you're
team
not
to-
answering that. Will you provide the 17 recordings?
We will take that back and we'll work with you.
So
and
you're
your
not
staff.
answering that either. Did you investigate in any way, shape, or form these allegations?
Senator, once again, I'm not going to comment.
So
on
you're not going to say
investigative.
whether you did your job?
We do our job to the very best of our ability.
Well, not here. You're not answering a single question to the American people. And you may think this is esoteric. I promise you, millions of Americans are concerned. You know who isn't concerned? Not a single Senate Democrat. We're going to go through this whole hearing. Not one Democrat will ask a question about this. You know who else isn't concerned? The corporate media, who is joining with the Democrats in covering up this evidence. If Joe Biden is innocent, the evidence should be made public and demonstrate that he's innocent. But if he is not, is it true this informant who alleged that he personally took a bribe was an informant the FBI had relied upon previously in other investigations? Yes or no?
In each and every investigation that we have, all the work that we do,
I asked you
the
a yes or no
expectation
question.
is that every
I asked-
logical avenue of investigation be pursued
I asked you a
to
yes
its
or no
fullest.
question. Are you going to answer it?
Yeah, I'm answering your question.
Was the informant one you had relied on previously in other investigations? Yes or no?
Senator, we run down every piece of information. Every
You're not
lead,
answering it then. You're refusing to answer it.
objectively,
So you're refusing to answer the
to
question.
the fullest extent possible.
refusing to answer the
relentlessly,
question. Is that
and
correct?
aggressively in all instances.
Senator, your
It's
time.
disgraceful. It's disgraceful, Deputy Director Abate. Disgraceful.
It's so much political theater. And it seems like different rules for different candidates, for different people. It doesn't seem to me like justice is evenly applied these days. And I agree with Cruz. Honestly, I think it is disgraceful. And the public does have a right to know. I think the public already does know. If they choose to know, the information is all right there. I think that there are too many people who choose to close their eyes, cover their ears, so they see no evil and hear no evil. Don't go away.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, so we all know that YouTube is, they take a pretty hard line with a lot of things, right? And you know that we've had some issues here on our main YouTube channel, right? And I know that a lot of you are concerned about censorship and deplatforming and the demonetization of platforms just like this one and others, especially independent, free thinking, free media outlets, right? And how would you like to fight back? How would you like to stick it to the man? How would you like to do something to help this channel at the same time? I have something that I'm asking you to do. I'm asking for a huge favor, and this is a solution that I think I can actually potentially make work. Now, there are two possible pathways that I could take in order to deal head on with this whole issue of demonetization, deplatforming, censorship, blah, 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 blah. Okay? We have more than one channel. As you know, this particular channel has some issues. I'm going to put a link in the chat to one of the other YouTube channels that we have. What we need is about 850 people to subscribe to the other channel. If we can get that subscription list up by another 800 or say 900, maybe, I don't even need 1,000. But if we can get to that level, then we might be able to rectify some of the problems that we have here, shifting the emphasis from this channel over to that channel, get people to just move over to the other YouTube channel, at which point I think they will potentially reinstate our privileges. It's worth a shot. I have another plan if this one doesn't work. I actually have two other plans to sort of address these things. It would be, the bottom line is, if you want to help the channel, just do me a huge biggie and click on the link that I'm about to put in the description. Go to the other channel where this show is running right now, still live. It's just that very few people actually go to that channel because everybody's on the main channel. Subscribe to that one. Make sure when you do, if you do subscribe, please, that you hit the notification bell as well. Otherwise, the subscribing doesn't really have much impact. You don't receive notifications just because you're a subscriber. YouTube needs you to hit the notification bell so that you get notification every time we go live or publish a new video. And then you know that the show is going to be on. But if we can get the number of subscribers up to a certain level, then I think they will probably provide the privileges that we are currently missing and get those reinstated. But we have to do it over on the other channel. So here we go. I'm going to put this in the description now. Here's the link to the other YouTube channel. Please, please, please consider subscribing over there. We'll see how many people we get to do that tonight. And I know that YouTube is suppressing the search algorithm and blah, blah, blah. But, well, we'll just give this a shot and see where we end up tonight, maybe over the next few nights, and see if we can get the subscription level up to where we need it to be. Now, we have more news from the U.S.A. side coming up here. But first, we're gonna go back. I'm gonna tell you what happened over in that Detroit area with the pride flag. But before we get into that, I do want to take you to today's question period in the House of Commons, where Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre called out the Prime Minister on this Paul Bernardo serial killer transfer from maximum security to medium security. He's being focused. The criticism has been focused over the past week or so on the public safety minister, who is under pressure to resign because of this. But now Poilievre has the Prime Minister himself in his political crosshairs, targeting Justin Trudeau, saying that it's actually directly Trudeau's fault. That Trudeau is the reason that this has been allowed to happen. And that is what he had to say today during question period. And yet, even though Trudeau was in Ottawa, the nation's capital, today, and in fact, I saw a video of him walking down the street, he did not go to question period. He did not take his seat in the House of Commons. So therefore, he wasn't there to answer these questions. Instead, they had a replacement. But here's
oral questions. Question orale, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
We now know why the Prime Minister did not fire his Minister of Public Safety, his minister who is misleading and incompetent. Here's why: because the Prime Minister himself is the one who approved the transfer of Paul Bernardo to a minimum security prison with more freedoms and more comforts in that prison. The Prime Minister is in Ottawa today, so does he have the courage to stand up and explain to the victims of Paul Bernardo why he wanted to give more freedoms and comforts to that monster? The Honourable Government Leader in the House. Mr. Speaker, the crimes in question were despicable, unspeakable. There are no words to describe how awful it was. Everyone in Canada was affected by these crimes. The families were traumatized by these crimes. The Prime Minister. Well, first, Mr. Speaker, I would like to say that the Correctional Service of Canada is fully independent, and we cannot have political interference in our corrections.
Why the Prime Minister refuses to fire his incompetent and misleading public safety minister. And it is that the Prime Minister himself was the one who accepted the transfer of Paul Bernardo from a maximum security prison to a medium security prison where he would have access to human interaction, more freedom, and more comfort. His office knew 3 months beforehand, and his cabinet has the power to direct the correctional authorities to keep mass murderers in maximum security prisons. Will the Prime Minister show the courage to stand on his feet and explain to victims of Paul Bernardo why he wanted to give this monster more freedom and comfort?
Yes. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, first of all, Mr. Speaker, the idea that anybody in this House would have any sympathy for the monstrous acts that were committed is absolutely repugnant. The second thing that I will say, Mr. Speaker, is that it's unfortunate that the Leader of the Opposition mischaracterized what happened. He knows very well that Correctional Services Canada makes those decisions independently. He knows very well as well, Mr. Speaker, that we have a system we're not supposed to interfere politically with that. Mr. Speaker, it is true in March that staff were informed of the possibility. It wasn't until that possibility was confirmed that they informed the Prime Minister at the end of May.
Well, Leader of the Opposition.
Based on that account, the Prime Minister knew the day of the transfer, and his office knew 3 months earlier. The government has in the past issued directives to correction services on what should be done with various classes of prisoners, like by forcing those with contraband into dry prison cells, for example. In other words, they do have the power to direct corrections on these issues. The Prime Minister and his office knew for 3 months. Given that he's here in Ottawa today, does he have the courage to explain his decision to let this monster go out of a maximum security penitentiary? Yes or no?
Opposition officer, who I know cares as deeply about the gravity of those crimes and the impact on the families as I do. I know he cares as deeply about what we're going to do for Canadians on that. I also know that he knows the independence of our correctional services system. I know that he also knows that we're not supposed to interfere politically. And so I would ask him to work collaboratively with us to find a way where we don't politicize Correctional Services Canada, and we work together to make sure that the families who are impacted in crimes of this nature are taken care of, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
I look across at the Prime Minister's seat. I know that he is in Ottawa today, and if he had the courage, he would be standing to answer these questions directly.
No, I just want to remind the honourable members that we can't do indirectly what we do directly. So let him continue.
And I take the House Leader up on his challenge to work with us. We have a bill that would make sure every mass murderer stays in a maximum security penitentiary. It's before the House. Will the government pass it with unanimous consent today?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
So first of all, Mr. Speaker, I would say that I look directly at the Leader of the Official Opposition for a reason. I look at him for a reason because when we're dealing with something as serious and as brutal as the crimes that occurred in a community that was right next to mine, that I felt viscerally that the conversation that we have has to be measured. It has to be based on cooperation. And frankly, Mr. Speaker, based on the underlying premise that every member cares equally and deeply about this, about two things, about the victims, absolutely, but also about not politicizing our correctional services system.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
I take the House Leader at his word that he is equally horrified with this monster and that he wants to do something. But I take him at his word when he says he wants to work with us to reverse this transfer and put this monster back in a maximum security penitentiary. The good news is that he can do that today. The conservative member for Niagara Falls, who represents many of the family and friends of the victims, has a bill that would ensure that every single mass murderer stays in a maximum security penitentiary forever. Will the government commit to passing it with unanimous consent and send Paul Bernardo back to maximum security penitentiary?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we are in all instances ready to have a conversation about how we don't politicize our correctional services, about how we ensure that we take care of victims and their families. And Mr. Speaker, there is a review of the decision that was made by correctional services. It's going to be completed in 2 weeks. I would suggest that we take a look at that. And I would also suggest that when we're dealing with something as major as changing our correctional services system, that it deserves discussion, it deserves the ability for it to be examined by all parliamentarians, and to make sure that we don't create unintended consequences, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, a commission of inquiry into Chinese interference must be established before the end of the session. Why? Because investigations take time, and we've already wasted too much time. If we want to reassure the public, we need to get to the bottom of the interference in the last elections before the next election. That is the only way to assure the public of the probity of the next federal election. So I appeal to my colleagues' statesmanship. Time is running out. Will they announce a public and independent commission of inquiry before the end of the session? The Honourable Public Safety Minister. Mr. Speaker, I'm very encouraged by the exchanges between my colleague, the Minister for Intergovernmental Affairs, and the Bloc Québécois and the NDP. I hope that conversations will occur with the Conservatives as well. This fight, the fight against foreign interference, is not a partisan one. We need to do this work together. That way, we can create new powers, we can add resources. This will help in the fight against foreign interference, and that's what's most important. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, at this point, my colleagues will have understood that the Bloc Québécois will not let this one go. The public's trust in democracy is at stake. The public is calling for a public and independent commission of inquiry. Its commissioner must be approved by this House. And the commission will have to report on its work not in 5 years, not in 2 years, but in the next few months. It's a huge undertaking, Mr. Speaker. We know that. That's why we're working with the government. The government knows that it's a huge undertaking too. We have our work cut out for us. So will the government announce this commission? The Honourable Minister. First, Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank my colleague for her teamwork. The option of a public inquiry is still an option on the table, as my colleague is currently negotiating with the Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs. What's most important is that we work together with Canadians in order to create new authorities to protect not only our democratic institutions, but Canadians themselves too.
Burnaby, the Minister de Sécurité.
So we'll just stop that. I just want to point out that Anthony Blinken, we're talking about China, Anthony Blinken going to China for a couple of days this weekend on a diplomatic mission. And so he's looking to reset the relationship between the United States and China after the big hubbub over the Chinese spy balloon thing. His trip there was delayed because of all of the media hype that surrounded all of that. And as I said yesterday, I'm worried because I think Blinken is very good at war and not very good at diplomacy. And he apparently is going over there, and while there will advocate strongly, we're told, for military-to-military communications. So he has spoken by phone with the Chinese foreign minister, who he called to stress that the U.S. needs to respect China's concerns, stop interfering in China internal affairs, and stop undermining China's sovereignty, security, and development interests in the name of competition. It's going to be a heated discussion, especially after we've seen Nancy Pelosi fly over to Taiwan, land there. We know that that really upset the Chinese. The relations between the United States and China right now are at a low point. And with the alignment that we see happening between China and Russia, and the increasing strain between China and the United States and NATO, I think that Blinken is the wrong guy to be sending over there, but he's Biden's boy. Hold on to your wallets and get ready to duck and cover. That's all I can say about that. We'll be watching that over the weekend. Now, back just briefly to the Paul Bernardo thing. Some of you may not be old enough to remember, or maybe you have forgotten, or maybe you're from the U.S., maybe you're among our U.S. viewers and listeners. Maybe you don't know who Paul Bernardo was. I just want to bring you up to speed on that, because it was, and still is, an international story. Paul Bernardo, also known as the Scarborough Rapist and the school girl killer, is one of Canada's most notorious criminals. He was born August 27th, 1964, here in the province of Ontario. Bernardo carried out a series of heinous crimes, along with his then wife, Carla Homolka, during the late 1980s and the early 1990s. So their criminal spree involved sexual assault, torture, and murder, leaving a lasting impact on Canada and even other countries, because, as I say, it is a story that had international impact because of the horrific nature of it. Bernardo's first known attacks occurred in 1987, where he was targeting young women in the Scarborough area of Toronto. He would stalk and assault his victims, earning him the nickname Scarborough Rapist. His acts escalated, leading to the brutal murders of Leslie Mahaffey and Kristen French. Leslie Mahaffey was a 14-year-old schoolgirl. She was kidnapped from her home June 15th, 1991. Bernardo and Homolka held her captive, subjecting her to unimaginable torture and sexual abuse. After weeks of suffering, Leslie Mahaffey was murdered and her body was dismembered, encased in cement, and dumped in a lake. Approximately a year later, April 16th, 1992, 15-year-old Kristen French fell victim to Bernardo and Homolka. Kristen was abducted while walking home from school in St. Catharines, Ontario. She too suffered horrifically at the hands of the sadistic couple before being killed. Her body was discovered weeks later in a ditch. Their reign of terror, orchestrated by Bernardo and Homolka, finally came to an end in February of 1993, when Homolka confessed to her involvement and provided crucial evidence against Bernardo. The couple had recorded videos of their crimes, which served as critical proof of their guilt. Paul Bernardo was arrested and charged with numerous counts of sexual assault, kidnapping, and murder. His trial began in May of 1995 and lasted several months. The proceedings captivated the entire nation and even the United States. Many in the United States took note. It shed light on the shocking details of his crimes and the disturbing dynamic between Bernardo and Homolka. In September of 1995, Paul Bernardo was found guilty of multiple charges, including 2 counts of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for 25 years. And I don't think he will ever be released from prison. But I didn't think he would be, released from maximum security and transferred to medium security either. But here we are. And I guess given the lenient nature of the Canadian justice system, anything is possible. The crimes committed by Paul Bernardo inflicted immeasurable pain on the victims, their families, and the communities affected. His name remains synonymous with acts of extreme violence, serving as a reminder of the dark chapters, as one of the darkest chapters in Canadian criminal history. And that is the background on Paul Bernardo and his then wife, Carla Homolka, who was released years ago. And it's because she cooperated finally and gave the investigators the evidence they wanted, the deal that she made that allowed her to be released from prison. So Bernardo paying, I think, a more appropriate price. But Carla Homolka, the fact that she was released shocked the nation as well, because she was directly involved. And it is, in my view, inexcusable to have her out walking the streets tonight. I'll be right back.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
And here's some breaking news. This happening right now, tonight. This maybe not going to set the whole world on fire, but this did set a wind turbine on fire. This is from my good friend Sean Jackson, who just sent this in. And he recorded this. He is now officially a Freedom reporter. He recorded, you see the wind turbine there, hit by lightning, set on fire. And that's in Duart County here in Ontario. I guess when you have a wind turbine sticking up in the air like that, they become something of a lightning rod. And in this case, it was enough to set it on fire. From my good friend Sean Jackson, who grew up across the street from me. Thank you, Sean, for sending that in. And if you send me your address, you, sir, will receive a Maverick News t-shirt. I will send you one for sending us that video. Thank you very, 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 very much. Greatly appreciate that. And if anybody out there tonight donates $30 or more, I will send you a free t-shirt too. A Maverick t-shirt. Send me your address. Just include the address if you donate through maverickdonations.com. Make sure you include your address there, or at freedomreporters.com. Donate $30 and you get the t-shirt for free. I'll send that along. $30 or more, you get yourself a t-shirt. We could sure use the support. That's what keeps us on the air here every single night. And there's some action news for you. Back on the Russian front, Russia says that it is ready to sever diplomatic ties with Canada. You remember yesterday we told you, I think it was yesterday, maybe it was the day before. Anyway, that plane, that Russian cargo plane that had been sitting in storage at Pearson Airport in Toronto. And then finally, I think it was maybe 2 days ago now, the federal government in Canada decided to formally seize it. They've seized that as that asset. Russia's now saying that, and here's the headline, Russia says relations on the verge of being severed as Ottawa seizes the cargo plane. Moscow is warning that relations with Canada are on the verge of being severed after the federal liberal government moved to forfeit a massive Russian cargo plane. Justin Trudeau visited Ukraine this past weekend, where he announced that Canada officially seized that airplane. It's been sitting on the tarmac at the airport there since February of 2022. Been there for a long time, and they were charging the company by the minute for storage. So a year ago, Canada became the first G7 country to enact a law that allows Ottawa to not just seize assets held by sanctioned people, but to forfeit the money and have it diverted to victims of a sanctioned regime. I think this is very, very dangerous. You know, it's basically federal government making a decision to just confiscate whatever they want, whenever they want to. And I guess we're sort of at war with Russia, but it's war these days has become such a strange thing. I guess it's always been a kind of a strange thing where you have people killing each other over in Ukraine, but then the country that you're really fighting with, which is Russia, is still sending planes over here, and we're still conducting commerce and trade, and still conducting commerce and trade with the enemy's allies, like China. And honestly, man, a lot of this stuff, like, it is so insane. Just think about what they're actually having people do. They're having people kill each other. And now they're seizing assets. And in my estimation, it's improper. It really amounts to a form of theft. It's economic warfare that Canada is really initiating. It's a tool of warfare that the government of Canada is using against Russia. And if you're going to do that, the problem is that things can escalate very quickly and become a kinetic war on a larger scale, not just be confined as a proxy war, if you want to call it that, in Ukraine. Today also, I can tell you that I was watching Patrick Lancaster, and you might want to check out more of his work because he was in Russian territory right near the front lines where fighting was happening, and he was showing us munitions, bullets, military equipment, NATO supplied, on the Russian side of the border where it's not supposed to be. And the conditions for Ukraine using those lethal assets are such that they are not supposed to be used outside of Ukraine, not supposed to be used in Russia. And yet there were multiple examples, all kinds of evidence of that actually happening, which is an improper use and a further escalation of the conflict. But so far, Russia, of course, has been very, very, I would say, patient and lenient in dealing with that. The fact that those weapons are being used on Russian soil now, very worrisome, though, because the war is spilling over into actual Russian territory. We don't want to see that. We don't want to see that. And then there's this. Canada is halting all government-led activity with the China-led Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. This is the government's response to Chinagate, the allegations of Chinese foreign interference into the Canadian electoral process. And in fact, it isn't just allegations. The government itself has acknowledged that this is a problem, that it has happened, it has been happening. And that's why we're getting all these calls for an inquiry to determine exactly what the circumstances are surrounding all of that. And Chrystia Freeland, Canada's finance minister and deputy prime minister, is saying that Canada is freezing ties with the China-led Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank while it probes these allegations that it is dominated by the Chinese Communist Party. Freeland said she has not ruled out any outcome of the investigation. It's a hint that Ottawa could pull out of the bank that it officially joined in March of 2018. So Bob Pickard is that bank's global communications director, and he has said today that he had resigned and accused the bank of being dominated by the Communist Party. So what does all that mean? I'm not really exactly sure. I think that this is being done to some degree for political optics, to make it look like the government is taking action or doing something about these allegations of Chinese government, Chinese communist government meddling in Canada's affairs. But yeah. Oh, yeah. And Sean is just messaging me here about that wind turbine being on fire. He says that unfortunately he didn't quite capture on video the top come off it. But there's some other stills here. And let me see if I can get you a picture. Here's a closer up picture of it, a closer upper. And there it is. You know, the thing that scares me about those wind turbines is if you've ever seen one like fly apart, wow, if you're underneath or close to one of those things, that can be very dangerous. Not only do they kill a lot of birds, but when they get like that, the whole top end will come right off. And I mean, those things are huge. To have those blades come flying down and the head of the unit come off the top like that and crash to the ground, anyone underneath, very, very dangerous. I've seen video of these wind turbines in high wind conditions come flying apart. And I mean, in a tornado, that kind of thing, you know, this is a very serious, dangerous situation. So thank you again, Sean, for sending that in. Greatly appreciate that. What else do we have happening here tonight? CNN is reporting that there has been a global cyber attack happening. So they're saying this is an exclusive story. U.S. government agencies hit in a global cyber attack, it says here. Now, take all of this and absorb it with a grain of salt, because if anyone's going to know what the government wants it to know, it's going to be CNN. We know that CNN quite often works hand in hand with the lettered agencies. It's just a fact that has come to light over the years. So in this story, they're saying, and I'm giving them credit because they say this is their exclusive, several, in quotation marks, U.S. federal government agencies have been hit in a global cyber attack that exploits a vulnerability in widely used software. The story goes on and says the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency is providing support to several federal agencies that have experienced intrusions affecting their Move It applications. That from Eric Goldstein, the agency's executive assistant director for cybersecurity. He issued a statement today to CNN referring to the software impacted. Quote, "We are working urgently to understand impacts and ensure timely remediation." End of quotation. It is not immediately clear if the hackers responsible for breaching the federal agencies were a Russian-speaking ransomware group that has claimed credit for numerous other victims in the hacking campaign. A CISA spokesperson had no comment when CNN asked who carried out the hack of federal agencies and how many have been affected. Well, they could ask. I'm not sure that we would get a truthful answer. Agencies were much quicker Thursday to deny they'd been affected by the hacking than to confirm they were. So even though they're saying they weren't, CNN is saying they were. And even though they're denying it, CNN is saying you're lying. The Transportation Security Administration and the State Department said they were not victims of the hack. CISA director, well, I don't know if they're saying that they're all lying, but I guess they're saying that some of them were, maybe some of them weren't. Some of them are saying they weren't. I don't know. CISA director Jen Easterly told MSNBC on Thursday that she was confident that there will not be significant impacts to federal agencies from the hacks because of the government's defensive improvements. But the news adds to a growing tally of victims of a sprawling hacking campaign that began 2 weeks ago and has hit major U.S. universities and state governments. The hacking spree mounts pressure on federal officials who have pledged to put a dent in the scourge of ransomware attacks that have hobbled schools, hospitals, and local governments across the U.S. And we have seen those kinds of hacks taking place over the last even couple of years on an increasing level. So Progress, the U.S. firm that owns the Move It software, has also urged victims to update their software packages and has issued security advice to those using their software product. Global cyber attack. CNN. CIA News. Oh, yes. Okay. I'll take a quick break. We're going to come back and dig into the whole pride thing because everything there continues to escalate. I hate talking about it, but there's just no avoiding it. Don't go away. I shall return.
Fighting the Great Reset by leading the Great Resistance. Maverick News. The antivirus programs for your mind.
I'm back, and in the community of Hamtramck this week, which is a suburb of Detroit, they voted, the municipal council there voted to they're just saying no to putting the pride flag up in front of municipal buildings. This happening, of course, during Pride Month, or in Canada, it's now Pride season. And we have just a few clips of what kind of transpired there during the public council meeting. Here we go. And we'll pick it up right here. This is the Hamtramck. Here we go.
Lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender individuals bring a vibrancy and a positivity to this community, and it's crucial as a community we celebrate these contributions in the face of discriminatory legislation across this country. These members have helped me find a home here in Hamtramck and a future through Wayne State University. We live in America for its freedoms. It follows I should be free to live the life I choose. The world in these 2 square miles has and will continue to have LGBT residents, whether they come here for the community or come from it. 7.2% of adults are LGBT in some form or another. And although it may be a hard pill for some of you to swallow, statistically, nearly a 1/10 of you and your loved ones is LGBT in some form or another. I do not wish to spend the next 30 years in a split community trading begrudging stares. I think you know better than to make your home a place of violence and or distrust of your neighbor. Just outside that door,
Excuse me, look at this.
there's a poster just outside this door.
I told you, knock it off.
There is a poster hanging from the Hamtramck Historical Commission. It shares the donor was proud to be Polish. The first listed antonym of pride is shame. Is this a place I should not feel proud to exist? Abu Ahmed, Mohammed, Khalil, Naeem, Muhit, I urge you to oppose this shameful resolution. Mohammed, Amir, I urge you to confront whatever hatred has fostered such a shameful proposal.
Okay, so that's just one of the many speakers. The speakers went on for hours, and then there's this young man.
Such a shameful and embarrassing history. If you don't know, Wyandotte, Michigan is known for being a sundown town. They're called sundowns because it was dangerous for Black and brown people to be out after dark, or else they would face civilian and police harassment. If we allow Hamtramck, Michigan to adopt a legal standard of bigotry, it's only natural that the queer presence here, your neighbors, are forced out due to hate crimes and police harassment. It's obvious what you're doing, and it's disgusting. In the eyes of the law, I'm a transgender woman. In the eyes of many of you in this room right now, I will be never anything more than a gay man. That is fine. I'm not here to tell you what to think, what to do in your spare time. Interfering with clear expression is a violation of our rights. I know the movement to ban pride flags in Hamtramck has been supported by big money interests, some of whom are in this room with me right now. What we lack in funding, we will make up for in perseverance. Anti-gay and anti-trans legislature will not be tolerated in Hamtramck. You want us to leave? Come and make us. We will vote you out before you ever could.
Thank you.
So a lot of people from the other side of the equation spoke as well. The council voted unanimously on the resolution, voting to ban, if you want to use that word, the pride flag from municipal properties. The motion was introduced by Mayor Pro Tem and Councilman Mohammed Hassan. And the motion also prohibits the display and flying of flags with racist and political views. Hassan and other members of the council said that the LGBTQ people and others are welcome in Hamtramck, but they need to respect religious freedom. Proponents of the resolution said the pride flag clashes with their faith and argued American soldiers sacrificed for the U.S. flag, not the pride flag, and the American flag is the one that they feel is the appropriate flag to fly on government properties. And then before the vote, Hassan blasted critics of the resolution for not respecting the views of Hamtramck residents. He says, please don't threaten us. I'm the elected official. I'm working for the people with the majority of the people and doing what the majority of the people like. So his position, obviously, is that you also have to be respectful of people who are opposed to the pride movement, and especially people who have religious views that run in conflict with that. You have to be respectful on both sides. That's something I've actually pointed out here, and I kind of agree with that. Here's a little bit of a report from WDIV, give you a sense of what the mainstream media and how they were handling this locally.
Approval for the proposed resolution, followed by a very public display of affection.
I'm all for removing the gay pride flag because you know what? Let me tell you something. This is America. I have the right to say I'm against the gay pride flag. If anyone has an issue with it, they could go kick rocks.
The resolution proposed by Mayor Pro Tem Mohammed Hassan states the city will not allow any religious, ethnic, racial, political, or sexual orientation group flags to be flown on the city's public property. The only flags allowed would be the American, state, and city flags, along with other nation flags and the prisoner of war flag.
I relocated from California to Hamtramck. That's really far away. And I did it because I thought it was a diverse community.
You don't see my family sitting there putting the flag and say, I'm going to put the Lebanese flag down your throat. You keep your flag, you want to put it at your house, put it at your house. Do not put it on city property, and do not put it in our schools. Yes, nice and simple.
So just a little taste of what the local media was doing with it. And then these are clips, just a short clip here from the counselors at the forefront of all this as they voted on this.
3 years ago. So you understand, 10 years, no issue with this resolution. So this was brought to clarify that resolution. Another thing is the resolution that was approved in 2021 to fly the flag here in Zosman Park in front of the City Hall. The Art and Culture Commission asked for permission. Read the resolution, you will see. Art and Culture Commission has sought permission from the City Council to fly the flag in front of the City Hall. Now somebody is telling the boards and commission, no, don't ask for permission from the City Council, act on your behalf, like they have more power than the City Council, to undermine the power of the City Council. And that's what forced the council members to bring this, to put a limit to this. I mean, because of the previous practice. It should be just done as the previous practice. If you go ahead and read those resolutions, you will find that we're just trying to implement the previous practice, nothing new. So this is just an explanation about what's happening. Any further discussions for City Council members?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes,
if I may.
Councilman Chaudhry.
Good evening, folks. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for being here so patiently. Some of you already passed the bedtime. You got to work tomorrow. Yeah, but here's the thing, folks. I believe in the rights of every human to enjoy their life under the full rights of the United States. The resolution does not prevent private citizens from flying the pride flag around the city. We only want to respect the religious rights of our citizens. Pride Month is a time to celebrate diversity of the LGBTQ community, which includes people of all ages, abilities. No one should be denied access to the services and supports they need to thrive in the community because of their sexual orientation or gender identity. But here's the thing, folks. You guys are welcome to the community. You guys welcome to walk to the restaurants, walk to the grocery store. Why do we have to have a flag flown in this city property to be represented? You already represented. We already know who you are. And we don't have any hate or any discriminations against that. We get along very well. By making this bigotry, making this a scene, it's making like you wanted to hate us. It's you versus and others. It's not that. It's everyone included. And this is the community we live. I love where you live. I have no problem. But the community as a whole, it has this respect that we're raising family. We're doing our best to support the community. Therefore, you are not unwelcome. You are welcome here. But we have to respect the religious. We have to respect the people that around here. Schools, mosques, churches. I won't take any longer than this. It's been a long night, but I welcome every one of you. I have no problem with anyone whatsoever. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
So they voted unanimously in favor of the motion. As I indicated, now the councilors, all of them, including the mayor, very respectful, really, of in their words for the pride movement, the gay community, welcoming them, but now imposing restrictions on what kind of flags are to be flown in front of municipal buildings and on municipal properties. And I think we should take note here of something that is important. Hamtramck is a community that is, in fact, it is the only Muslim majority community in the United States. And I think what you're seeing here with the municipal council is a reflection of the community standard there because of the demographic makeup of the community, where the values are much more conservative because it is a Muslim majority community. That's something that I think government has not really foreseen. They talk about diversity being the strength of both Canada and the United States, Canada being very much, all in on this. But last weekend, we also saw the Muslim community out in numbers protesting alongside the freedom movement in Ottawa at a demonstration against all of this craziness and the drag queen story times and the LGBTQ pride season stuff clashing. And then you saw some children from Muslim families stomping on pride flags that had been thrown on the ground. This, I think, creates a bit of a problem, especially in Canada, for the Liberal government, which has really been using both of those communities, the gay community and the Muslim communities, as bases of support. And now they're clashing, and I think they're losing the Muslim communities. And if those communities shift their support to other parties, in particular the Conservatives, the Liberals are toast, because it's been pretty close, in the polling and even in the last election, and the Conservatives are already out in front. And it's been very difficult for people on the Conservative side to earn the trust of the Muslim communities across Canada. But this is a wedge issue that has inadvertently thrown a wedge between the Liberals and some people who have been traditionally heavy supporters, probably 95% plus supporters of the Liberals in Canada. And I think probably you're seeing some of that kind of erosion of support on the Democrat side over in the U.S. as well, in communities just like Hamtramck, because of them pushing so hard on this issue and putting drag queen story time right into schools, which a lot of people just don't like. It has set things, these relations back in a huge way. And the government, it's my view that government has been manipulating a lot of this, manufacturing this conflict in order to use it as a wedge issue. And when I say that they're manipulating this, I told you they're funding this stuff, didn't I? Well, there's a video circulating now online, and it speaks to this very thing. And the person who recorded this video, you need to listen to the very end of what I'm about to play for you, but listen to what is said at the end. And then just remember what I said about the funding, okay? Here's some evidence for you. Now, I wouldn't say this is definitive evidence because it's just one video. I cannot speak to authenticity or accuracy because I don't know if it has been manipulated, edited in any way. It sounds authentic. I think there's enough credibility here to run this to the degree that it allows us to raise some questions. Here we go. This is a TikTok video. Just watch this. Listen carefully, especially near the end. Here we go. crank this up.
You all might recognize Deanna Sheriff. She seems to pop up everywhere. Sorry in advance.
Should I call 911?
Ex-nurse. You don't have a job as a nurse anymore.
My
do you?
3-year-old has more
Loser,
respect for
ex-nurse.
herself.
You're
Yeah.
a loser. Bye, everybody. None of your fucking business. Everybody. Not your business. Oh, yeah, you have kids. We talk about this all the time.
Because of this. Because people like you are preying on them.
Bye. Bye.
Man, if you want to have a conversation, they'll have a conversation with you and not communicate microphone. It's kind of hard to communicate. We're not talking to you through the microphone. So if you want to have a conversation.
She got caught streaming this live.
You know what? For GoFundMe or PayPal for what? Sorry, I missed a bunch of comments. For this organization thing?
Listen.
There was somebody who was collecting, I think it's on our Ottawa Defense Collective site. Joe and I are not. We get paid directly by Trudeau, so we don't have to set up funds. We are government funded. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, good. Okay, we're just gonna cross.
Did you get that? Let me just run it for you one more time here. Hang on.
You all might recognize.
We get paid directly by Trudeau, so we don't have to set up funds. We are government funded.
One more time, shall we?
Ottawa Defense Collective site. Joe and I are not. We get paid directly by Trudeau, so we don't have to set up funds. We are government funded.
One more time.
I think it's on our Ottawa Defense Collective site. Joe and I are not. We get paid directly by Trudeau, so we don't have to set up funds. We are government funded.
Okay, so that's the audio, that's the video. Don't take it as gospel. Question that. It's gone viral. It's everywhere. I think it's worth questioning. It may be authentic. It may have been altered. I don't see her face. I don't see her lips moving. I don't know what her voice really sounds like. It could have been edited. Just be careful with this. I need to frame it in that way because I don't want to just put that out there as though it's a fact. There is so much fake stuff out there, so much fabricated crap that I don't want you to think that that is absolutely definitive. Because I don't know. Caution. But I wouldn't run it if I didn't think that there might be at least some smoke there. And because it's gone viral and everybody is looking at it, a lot of people will watch that and just take that as gospel. Yes, that's truth. They'll say, oh, look, there's the evidence, but I can't see the lips. I can't tell. So I maybe needs more work, you know, if we really want to dig into it. I don't know that I would ever be able to completely verify it. Maybe if someone knows her or if, you know, has access to her, can send her a message. I don't know her. Maybe she would just come right out and admit it. Maybe she's not hiding it. We do know that other groups like Anti-Hate Canada, like antihate.ca, they receive government funding. And they're out at these protests as well. That's not really a secret. What level of funding is sometimes in dispute, but we know that they're a government agency. an arm's length government agency. They do the government's bidding. They generate media content and studies and reports that they then send back to the government, that it's part of a system that the government uses to go after political opponents and to help them as they engage in more social engineering. It's the way it works. And she's saying right there, I think, that they are government funded as well, which is exactly what I've been saying. These drag queen story times, government funded. They're not doing it for free. These people going into these schools, it's a program. They got to be getting paid. Where's the money coming from? Government programs. And these protesters out there, they're government operatives, government funded, apparently. But we need to verify before you sit there and say, or before I would sit here and say, that's a fact. That's the truth. That's the real thing. But because it's so widespread, it's been seen so far and wide, I played it for you here tonight as well. Now, in Washington, D.C. tonight, they had a mass. I think it was the third time that this church in Washington, D.C., Holy Trinity Catholic Church. Let me bring this up. Right there. Has held mass to celebrate Pride Month. Tonight it says here, at our regularly scheduled 5:30 p.m. Mass, our parish will celebrate our third annual LGBTQIA+ Pride Mass. This celebration is an expression of our parish's mission statement to accompany one another in Christ, celebrate God's love, and transform lives. Our LGBTQIA+ ministry is a response to the Holy Father's call to go out to the margins. Our celebration of pride is not celebrating personal vanity, but the human dignity of a group of people who have been for too long the objects of violence, bullying, and harassment. Our parish reaches out to LGBTQIA+ people as it reaches out to all Catholics in our area. Now, that being said, Archbishop Vigano has issued a statement, and I'm sorry I had that queued up here. Let me see if I can find his letter. He issued a letter really criticizing church leaders who have been engaging in pride activities and celebrations. Let me take a brief break here because I had that queued up and it's fairly important. I want to make sure I get that accurate. And for some reason, I've lost the tab. So I just need about 60 seconds or so to bring that back up. I'll be right back.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals. Defenders of individual rights and freedoms. Credible. Trusted. Grounded in reality. Maverick News. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
So here it is. This is an article which highlights a letter that has been written by Archbishop Vigano, who has been really a thorn in the side of the current Pope, because he, of course, is far more conservative, far more traditional, not woke, and has really not been afraid to challenge the Pope on many fronts. And in this article by Emerald Robinson today, he says that one of the true spiritual leaders of our time, Archbishop Carlo Vigano, has just released a letter of warning regarding a Pride Mass to be celebrated today at the Holy Trinity Parish in Washington, D.C., which we just highlighted for you, which took place at 5:30 this evening. Vigano also names D.C. Cardinal Wilton Gregory as a promoter of the homosexualist agenda, in quotation marks. Finally, Vigano calls on all faithful Catholics to, quote, remove the servants of the Antichrist from the sacred precincts. And Archbishop Vigano, here in this headline, and the warning is the priests celebrating pride, he calls them homo heretics. Says here in the article, for years, ever since he was Archbishop of Atlanta, Wilton Daniel Gregory has been abusing his power to promote the homosexualist agenda, much to the scandal of the Catholic faithful. His monomaniacal fixation on the vice against nature earned him the sacred purple, that is the cardinalate, and appointment to the See of Washington, D.C., a worthy heir to McCarrick and Worrell, thus confirming that that betrayal of Christ's teaching is regarded in Bergoglio's Vatican as a prerequisite for an ecclesiastical career. It is not surprising that Cardinal Gregory is a follower of James Martin S.J., whose recent sacrilegious remarks on devotion to the Sacred Heart have aroused indignation in the ecclesial body and prompted the organization of a repertory procession on June 16th at Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles. He says here, it brings me great sorrow to learn that the clergy of the Archdiocese of Washington prefer to remain slavishly silent to this umpteenth sacrilege, in which the holy sacrifice is sacrilegiously used as a propaganda tool for a sin that cries out for vengeance before God, while the souls of so many poor sinners are confirmed in vice. But even greater is the pain of seeing the most blessed sacrament profaned during the octave of Corpus Christi and 2 days before the feast of the most sacred heart of Jesus, by admitting to communion people whom pastors should instead admonish and direct towards a path of true conversion and fidelity to God's will. And it goes on. Says here, pastors led astray by homo heresy should remember that when they stand before the throne of God to be judged, they will have to give an account to our Lord for the souls who, because of them, have been damned for eternity. Souls for whom he shed his own blood on the cross. By confirming these poor souls in mortal sin, they have usurped the authority of Christ and the authority of the church for a purpose opposite to that which Christian charity demands, demonstrating thereby their own moral corruption, along with that of those who let them act undisturbed to scatter the flock entrusted to them. The letter from Carlo Vigano goes on here. It says, I therefore unite myself spiritually with the Holy Rosary of Reparation that has been organized in front of Holy Trinity Parish in the hope that this praiseworthy initiative may obtain forgiveness from our Lord for the betrayal of his ministers, conversion for the souls led astray by these false shepherds, and atonement for the disrespect and sacrilege committed. In this bleak landscape of apostasy and rebellion against the God's commandments and the natural law, The aversion to Christ's truth by these unfaithful priests should bring home to Catholics the gravity of the situation of the church in the United States of America, moving them to prayer, fasting, and penance, that the divine majesty may grant his church holy shepherds inflamed with love for the Lord and for souls, and remove the servants of the Antichrist from the sacred precincts. Noted and signed by Carlo Maria Vigano, Archbishop. This is the Archbishop convoy made that video giving a nod, supporting the Freedom Convoy, supporting the truckers, and criticizing the government and making reference to globalism. It was a powerful video. He didn't actually make the video, but he did issue a recorded statement, and his voiceover was added to the video, which went viral as well. So here again, Archbishop Vigano making headlines here tonight, not widely reported, by the way. I think we're one of the only media outlets picking up on this statement that has been made. But certainly worth noting, because he is a powerful voice within the Catholic Church, an opposing force within the Catholic Church to the, I would say, the woke, neoliberal, globalist ideology that today is being promoted by Pope Francis. You see, there's politics even in religion. And so many people say that we need to get the religion out of the politics. I'm not so sure, especially when our rights, at least according to some, don't come from man. They come from a higher place. And I think maybe we could use a little more of that, honestly. I will return. Do not go away.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
And more of that wind turbine. Another shot here from Sean. Freedom Reporter extraordinaire tonight. Yeah, it looks like the pretty serious damage there. Not sure part of the blade fell off or not. Looks like part of it's gone, part of the turbine top, like it blew off or something. Man, a lot of heat there. So those things are filled with oil, right? So when they ignite, they burn. Thank you again, Sean, for sending that. Still shot. Another still shot. Another video. Breaking news. Breaking news. And then I was sent this. Just kind of highlight the mood. Not making a political statement here, but this is the mood out there because of this whole Pride season. You know, it's the whole point behind Pride season or Pride month, what it's supposed to do is generate acceptance and understanding and have people love each other. Isn't that what it's supposed to do? And yet, what do we have going on? Well, we have people making videos like this because some people are fed up with it. Check it out.
That's why there's porn in the school. There's porn in the school. What do you feel about that? 5-year-old looking at porn in the school. I don't need to be wearing no shadow to get out there. Yeah,
Quite a contrast. I don't know if it's fair, but it's quite a contrast. And I think it does highlight a real difference in, and it does highlight a difference in where our cultures are at, where we are at politically. Canada, the United States versus Russia, China, other countries. I don't know. I don't know. The whole everything here seems to be upside down, and the mood is volatile. What else do I have to share with you tonight? Let me just see what this is. Somebody just sent me this here. Okay, so Canada's investing 100 million. Yeah, that's old. That's old. Thanks for sending that, but that's old news. So we're not going to rerun that. Just let me make sure I haven't missed anything important here tonight. I think we had a couple of other stories that I wanted to highlight. Oh, yeah. Well, I want to show you that car because that's pretty cool. And I know I'm missing something important. I've got to be missing something important. I know it. I know it. I know it. What else do I have? Oh, yeah. Elon Musk. He says ESG is the devil. He's lashing out at woke ratings after ExxonMobil, Philip Morris outrank Tesla. This is a Breitbart article. I'll just bring it up so that you can assess for yourself. But the Daily Mail is reporting that environmental, social, and governance ratings, the ESG system, has come under fire from Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla, after his electric vehicle manufacturer received a lower rating than both a massive tobacco company, Philip Morris, and an oil colossus. So here he is, Elon Musk, chief executive of Tesla, speaks via video link during the Qatar Economic Forum. That was June 21st, 2022. Says Musk recently questioned the reliability of the ESG ratings, which are allegedly meant to direct investors toward businesses that practice ethical business practices, environmental sustainability, and social responsibility, but are highly controversial, of course, for being a woke leftist political influence campaign. So Musk has tweeted, "Why ESG is the devil," in reference to the rating system that gave Tesla a score of 37 out of 100, while awarding Philip Morris, the tobacco company, they make Marlboro cigarettes, they gave them an 84. How could that be? It doesn't make sense. And I would say Tesla's a pretty woke company overall, although Musk is pretty critical these days of a lot of, government, and he's been pro free speech in many respects and has worked to make Twitter more free. And I think that is probably why he's getting the 37 out of 100. And that's because government isn't happy with him right now. ExxonMobil, the oil company, was ranked among the top 10 by Standard & Poor's 500's ESG index. Tesla was left out back in 2022. The ESG ratings have drawn criticism from Musk, who calls them a scam that is being weaponized by phony social justice warriors, he says. Musk argued that the system is flawed and does not accurately reflect a company's commitment to environmental sustainability, social responsibility, and good governance. And very clearly, this illustrates that. Tesla's lower ESG rating was primarily a result of its social and governance performance, where it received scores of 20 and 34 respectively, even though the environmental category had a score of 60. The lower scores in the other two categories decreased the overall rating. So there have been reports of lawsuits against the company over alleged racial discrimination. That is true, against employees. One likely influence on Tesla's lower score. Additionally, the company's governance score suffered under a flurry of shareholder lawsuits and other allegations about the company. Nevertheless, Tesla is the electric car company. And in this woke EV era, as the government pushes toward an electrified automotive future, to not give Tesla a higher score than that, it just shows that the whole thing is completely political. And of course it's political, but I mean, it's hyper political. It is a weaponized tool. If you don't comply and if you don't make the government happy, they'll hammer you with a lower ESG score. And they can make your life pretty miserable. Musk better be careful, because his companies rely extensively on government grants, subsidies, tax breaks, at every level of government. And if he continues to cross the line, they could cut him off in some pretty critical areas. Now, that being said, I think that he's so big now as one of the world's richest people that the governments, not just one government, not just the U.S. government, but other governments as well, have to some degree become reliant, dependent on him, especially with his new Starlink system. Make no mistake, that system is being used by government and government intelligence agencies, not just to spy, but to manipulate and control the flow of information and propaganda into other countries, from the United States and NATO countries into other places. Musk is part of the system, man. As much as he says he's for free speech, make no mistake, he is part of the system. He has become part of the swamp, inadvertently or maybe on purpose. One way or the other, it doesn't matter. And he may not be all in on the globalist agenda or whatever you want to say, but he is part of the swamp. This is a guy who wants to put chips into people's brains and is doing it. Neuralink. And that's not me moving my lips because of artificial intelligence or a deep fake. That's me telling you the way it is. That's what's going on. So yeah, he's all for free speech over here, but over here, he wants to implant chips into people's neural systems. If that isn't globalist thinking, I don't know what is. So I would say beware Elon Musk too. For he comes bearing the gift of free speech with his social media platform, but what he giveth, he taketh away with the other hand, with the ability to track us with his social media platform and digital chipping and applications and all kinds of other digital technology that he is no doubt making use of to skim data as we surf the net and partake in his Twitter platform. Ladies and gentlemen, that gets us to 8:57 p.m. here on this 15th day of June, 2023. I do thank every one of you for spending this time with us here tonight. You can support the channel by donating at freedomreporters.com. If you send a donation of $30 or more tonight, I will send you a shirt. Make sure you include your address when you send the donation in. If you're not sure how to send the address along, you can always send a message to me through the website at mavericknews.ca, mavericknews.ca. Just go to the contact page, send me a message. I will get it. And I will send you a t-shirt if you send a donation of $30 or more. But if you just put your address in when you make the donation, I'll see it there, and that will be sufficient. You can also donate at maverickdonations.com. And again, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. And especially right now, what we need to do, and I'll put this in the chat again. No, that's not the one that we need. Let me just find the channel again here for you. Well, I put the link in there earlier for you to subscribe to the other YouTube channel. That's where we need everybody to go tonight. And before I sign off, let me just get you that link one more time. Let me just get it for you right here. This is a channel with my personal name on it. Here's the link. If you could subscribe over there, if we can get enough people to subscribe over on that other channel, we can address this whole YouTube issue, I think. So let's see how many people we can migrate over there. And please, 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 please subscribe over on Rumble. We need you to do that. And when you subscribe on YouTube, make sure you hit the notification bell, like, share as well over on Facebook. And I will be back here tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the flip side. Love you guys. Take care.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.